My podcast.
My Michelle Live. My Michelle Live. Sports timeout. The band, the field, the faith, the fun. Here's Michelle.
Yes, here is Michelle, but I am not alone. Never alone because I got my friends surrounding me for one reason and one reason alone. This is what we do every week. We talk sport.
Sports!
Or,
Come on, guys,
or
bring the noise! Go, 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 go,
Hey
go!
guys, glad to have you with us. Let me give a little introduction to the guys surrounding me at our sports roundtable today. Joining us, this is his second time, and I let him know, the first time you were a guest, that was all cool and everything. This time, no holds barred, your family now.
So we can pick on him?
Michael, what's that?
We can pick on him then
Of
if we're a
course, it's
family?
just
All right.
yeah. Sorry, it's like, what did I get myself into? Michael Joseph Corbett, he's a student and he's studying this kind of stuff, sports management. We're going to talk a little bit more about his background in a bit. We have pastor, coach, and chaplain Garrick Pang. We have Coach E. Now, Brother E is with E Train Fitness. He has played every sport known to man. I mean, he just has. It's pretty cool. And then we have our sports authority, Amanda on the street, Joshua McMillen, who is having a bad hair day. So he's, you're not going to see him if you're watching the Zoom version or if you're watching us anywhere you're watching us around the world today. Hey guys, happy Blue Friday and welcome to Sports Time Out. Let's talk football. It's such a sad time of the year for me when football comes to an end. It's a sad time of the year for me, especially because the XFL, that was so great. As soon as the Super Bowl was done, we put our jerseys away. We could start something else. We are another year away from having the restart, hopefully, of the XFL. This was my team. It was my team. Nonetheless, let's talk. Let's talk Super Bowl. Coach E, you got something to say. Dang.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually elated to see something that I called out that would happen, and everyone said I was wrong, and they said
I didn't.
offensive lines didn't matter, and Patrick Mahomes was the best thing since cookies and cream ice cream, and I was just like, you know what? 2 missing starting tackles, it's gonna make a difference, and boy, did it make a difference. Patrick Mahomes was out there looking like Russell Wilson, and I'm telling you, it was not a good look because you need an offensive line, and he really didn't have one. But it was I was actually a bit surprised to see how poorly the backups played, but at the same time, I was not surprised by the Super Bowl. I was thoroughly impressed by how well the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense played that Super Bowl. More impressed than how well the offense did in that game.
Yeah, and his receivers really let him down. I mean, how many times was he pulling Russell Wilson-esque plays, running out of the pocket, throwing balls downfield, hitting guys in the hands and in the face, and then dropping the balls? Like, oh my gosh, some amazing throws by him. Like 3 of them were touchdowns that got dropped. I mean, what a different game that could have been and I feel like part of that is because these guys aren't quite as used to going off schedule as the guys that play with Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's been playing off schedule his entire career here. And you're right. What we watched in that game is we watched Russell Wilson. We watched the exact struggles he had this season with the offensive line play that was subpar and with 2 deep safeties. And the Kansas City Chiefs didn't adjust. They didn't adjust well. Their defense really let them down in a lot of ways. I think they got tilted a little bit and got run over, but they didn't adjust because they had success in the run game, but they didn't stick with their run game. They kept trying to throw it downfield. Well, while Patrick Mahomes was getting chased after. I mean, it was like a microcosm of what we saw with the Seahawks and their struggles this year.
In other words, we who are in this northwest corner, and a few of us who are on this broadcast we were commiserating. We were like, oh, yeah, I know how that feels.
And really, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson is the prototype for Patrick Mahomes. They're both baseball players. They both can run around and move. They both got the weird arm angles they can throw at. They're like Patrick Mahomes, maybe a little bit more gifted in some ways. I think Russell Wilson is gifted in other ways in the fact that he is so durable. I mean, you almost never see him limp. And even when he had broken ankles, basically, and was still out there playing. He has a next level durability that I don't know if Mahomes quite has. But Mahomes, a little bit taller, maybe a little bit faster, but they're very much the same type of quarterback and very similar. Like they're two of the maybe top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the league right now, but you still can't do it without help.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, they may be two of the top quarterbacks, but I'm sorry, we've got to come to the conclusion. One stands out, Michael, and he won the Super Bowl.
Yep, and that's he just proved that he was the GOAT. Like we all knew going in, at least back home in Massachusetts, we all knew that, but it just solidified it even more. And I think me watching the game, the breakdown, what I took away is Tampa played a base cover 2 the entire game. They didn't go away from it. They rushed 4. They pretty much blitzed like probably the least amount in that game than they did the entire season. That was the MO, was they're going to bring 6, bring 7, pressure Mahomes, and then hopefully they can crack a big play or 2. But they didn't go out of the scheme that they walked in with, which is play cover 2. And for those at home that don't know what it is, you basically keep 2 corners in the flats. So it takes away the short passes, and then you keep 2 safeties deep so that you take away the deep passes. So it challenges Kansas City to throw these intermediate passes in the middle. But Mahomes didn't have enough time, and they kept trying to go deep, and they kept trying to pass it short, and they didn't really take the advantages. And you saw that a little bit with Edwards-Helaire. He broke out a couple big runs, and his yards per carry was good, was because those intermediate areas were open. So it was a little shocking to see Andy Reid not recognize that and didn't really deploy Tyreek Hill and some more hitch routes or, in routes a little bit more 10 to 14 yards instead of, either 6 to 7 or, 25-ish, somewhere in there. But overall, it was an unbelievable game plan, both sides of the ball by Tampa Bay. Really, really impressed. And, I think it's a learning experience for Patrick Mahomes. I think it's honestly better for his career that he lost this game because he's going to take a lot of things away from it and only grow from it. So,
well, look at you, Mr. Silver Lining. Way to go. Take your hand, pat yourself on the back, a little ray of sunshine. Michael is our ray of sunshine today.
And I'm really excited to see, where the Chiefs will go from this next season. And I think, this is only the beginning of the Buccaneers dynasty.
Oh, yeah. It may be Garrick.
If this is the game next year, come February 6th, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. A lot of times it is good for people to get a perspective check, and it was a pretty big perspective check, I think. I mean, they had all the guns and had all the tools with the exception of their offensive line. And, there were a couple of us, Elston, you weren't alone. There were a couple of us who were concerned over that whole issue because of what we had seen throughout the season with the Seahawks. And it was very much a deja vu for most Seahawks fans, seeing that it was, I mean, you have a talented quarterback, you have a talented team around you, but if you don't have time, then you're going to be in trouble. And so that's what we saw. Oh, by the way, happy Chinese New Year, everyone, or Lunar New Year.
Happy Chinese New Year.
Yes, happy New Year.
I wore my special football uniform today.
So yeah, a big disappointment for people who, in fact, even some of the folks that aren't here on our roundtable today, that predicted Kansas City would take the win. And something that we talked about is this play 3 ways kind of quarterbacking that you guys mentioned with Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes, and I asked the question last week, well, with this new kind of quarterbacking, is it hard to defend against? Is it, well, from the Seahawks, from the Super Bowl, we say no. So it seems like that they've got our number. They've got that dialed in. So where does that lead quarterbacking in the future? Anyone want to take this on,
Well,
Elston?
Yeah, so the thing that I noticed, and this is what makes a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, even Lamar Jackson, a lot of these guys really, really good, is when you give them a solid offensive line and they have time to run the regular routes that you see from your traditional quarterbacks, but then they also have that time to do the improv. That's what makes them hard and dangerous to defend against.
Okay.
The problem with someone like Russell Wilson in the last few years is that he's had to do so much improv that those traditional routes don't have enough time to happen, or he gets sacked, or he's running around and it breaks down. What happened to Patrick Mahomes was he's gotten very used to having those traditional routes, and none of those were available because he didn't have the time to do that. And what I took away from that game mostly was Andy Reid, as my friend is a giant Eagles fan, he said Andy Reid was Andy Reid. He just kept throwing the football. And that was one of the things he had a problem with when he was in Philadelphia, is that he would get into these pass happy moments. And as Michael had pointed out, Edwards-Helaire, every time he ran, he was picking up 6 and 7 yards. And I was watching the game, man, saying, if you just keep running the ball, just run it down their throat. And also, they could have schemed better with that offensive line. They could have brought another tackle in to help Patrick Mahomes. But Andy Reid, and I'll say this, he decided to, and I think it might have been even ego driven, he decided to just stick with his own, with his 5 offensive line and not give them any assistance against that defensive line. And they paid the price big time. So going forward, the future of quarterbacking, I believe that these guys like Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson and things like that, if you can get that guy on your team, you're going to go places, but you got to give them an offensive line to play behind. Otherwise,
yeah. And that's been the conversation, by the way, this week in the Seattle market is Russell Wilson's getting, I've loved my time with the Seahawks, but man, if you can't give me a front line that's worth a dang, so that's been for you guys outside of the Seattle area, that's been the fear that's been in the air. Will the Seahawks continue with Russell Wilson, or better yet, will Russell Wilson continue with the Seahawks?
I think, Wilson is frustrated because they're almost becoming the Saints. And I say that because it seems like there's a lot of regular season success like there always has been, but then the playoff performance isn't there. And you kind of see these.
Come on, one playoff performance and you throw us under the bus.
But it's not just that. It was last barely beat Josh McCown, who was, the ultimate backup, barely beat him by 8 points. It's a lot of early exits that you're seeing, and regular season success, it doesn't replicate into the playoffs, which is frustrating for a guy like Russell Wilson and the fan base, because
we put way too much emphasis on the it factor in the fourth quarter. If we could just pull ourselves together, we're going to pull off a miracle. You can't always rely on that. You got to play all 4 quarters, or you're going to see the disaster that we saw in the playoffs and we saw in the Super Bowl from Kansas City. Did you guys, by the way, I should share screen. I want you guys to see this. I can't do that, but I'm going to share it as you're watching, wherever you're watching today. They had to celebrate for Tampa Bay by boat. And I'm going to let you hear this. You won't be able to hear it.
Michelle, you can go ahead and I think you should be able to do it now.
All right. You guys are going to want to see this. If anything,
make sure when you click on the share screen at the bottom, you click make audio available.
Okay, let's see. We'll share it.
There it
hopefully
is.
Okay.
We can see it.
The audio isn't as important as this boat parade and the toss of the trophy. Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
Best part is hearing his daughter say, "Daddy, don't."
Yeah, Daddy, don't. Yeah, I'm gonna play it just one more time. One more time. Oh, are you kidding me?
A
Are
remarkable
you
catch.
flipping kidding me?
Was that Gronkowski on the other end?
Yeah.
His boat.
What the heck? That was just crazy. I mean, what were they thinking? I don't know. I don't know. Guys,
I mean,
talk
he's
to
got
me.
6 of them. He can throw whatever he wants. He's got six of those things, having fun.
Yeah, that was something though. But
Gronk almost
that's
involved in another Super Bowl trophy catastrophe.
Yeah, that's right. The dent and the other one.
Yep.
That's making the most though of a crazy situation, right? Making the most of how we can't get together social, they canceled the parade and all of that, but the people on the sidelines were packed. So I don't know. What do you do? What do you do?
I think
So
the takeaway from that is how loose he was that entire day, and he pulled up on his $2 million boat and just kind of had a great time throughout, and I don't think we've ever publicly seen him this happy and this free, and I think that it was a tell to he kind of just needed a fresh start, and there was a lot of weight on his shoulders to perform, and he was hearing some things about this may be the Pats think this is my end of the career. And I think he just needed a change. He needed a fresh, scenery, and Tampa gave it to him. And he ultimately succeeded at that goal that he wanted to hit, which was win another Super Bowl. And I just think it was awesome to see him smile and have a lot of fun. And because, I felt like it was a little bit of a drag towards the end of his career in New England. He just get a little more angry, I don't have the weapons, this, that. And he loved his time this year in Tampa, which, as a New England fan, it's a little bittersweet because you would have liked to see it happen with us. But at the same time, it's good to enjoy it elsewhere.
Oh, I bet it is. I bet that's kind of crazy. I was going to ask you how that felt, but I guess bittersweet is the best
Bittersweet
way
is
to
the word.
describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to take this to a really weird place, if you don't mind, and that is Tom Brady. I've not been a Tom Brady fan, Coachy, Michael, you guys, you sing his praises. That's great. Maybe I'm still bitter about the Super Bowl a couple years ago. All right, whatever. But I got to tell you, I am all about supporting Tom Brady right now. Have you heard that now he's being called a racist for winning the Super Bowl during Black History Month?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I'm showing this. If you're watching, wherever you're watching, I'm kind of showing this on our feed here. Some of the tweets are ridiculous. If Tom Brady beats Patrick Mahomes during this Black History Month, then we have to double whatever we're demanding for reparations. Tom Brady winning during Black History Month is so racist. I feel it's racist. And it goes on and on. What the heck, guys? Talk to me.
It is the whole political correctness run amok. I mean, it is absolutely crazy. I mean, you always, at least I do. I always think, well, it can't go any further. It can't get any worse than what it is. And then you hear something like this. I mean, this is the ultimate competition for people to shine and to their best. And they're saying, oh well, and I got to settle down so I can actually speak, because if we're really trying to promote people for who they are and to celebrate their gifts and their talents, and then it's as if they're saying, oh, you should have let him win, right? I mean, is that really, I can't even, I can't fathom what people must be thinking to even make some kind of a ridiculous comment like that.
I know it's ridiculous and hurtful. And I don't know, Josh, we haven't heard from you for a while. Weigh in, babe. Let's just do this.
I'd rather just pretend it's not happening and move on.
Yeah,
Coachy.
let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, so I read a bunch of those tweets and social. I mean, a bunch of people sent me the articles on those, and one of the things that I got from that, and you know, the large part of me believes most of these tweets and whatever posts are most, you know, like I'd hope that they're 100% satire or it's a joke, because this is where we've come as a people, that it's actually, and as you know, Garrick was saying and other people saying, it's really hard to tell if people are joking or using satire or if they're serious because of the climate that we're in right now. Like, because I mean, I read so many of those messages, like, and then people would just respond with one on top of another and saying, yeah, you know, I'll celebrate it in March because then Black History Month's over by then. And I was like, what's sad is we can't tell if they're joking or if they're serious.
Joking, it's just not funny.
It's not like
funny.
As a person of color, I'm just like staring at this and I'm like, no, just stop it. Like, it's not just like, no, come on. Like, don't do that. Like, it's just, I would tell whoever was tweeting that, I literally would tell them to their face. I'm like, it's not even funny. Like, it's not this because we live in a society where you could probably tell that as a joke in person and people would get you were joking, but saying that on social media, people are going to think you're serious. And that's where we are right now.
That's where we are right now. You're right. So let's talk about something else that's kind of controversial then. And that is the national anthem debate with Mark Cuban. And that's been a little bit weird. And a lot of people are saying, well, maybe now it's time to stop even doing the national anthem. I mean, come on, with all the controversy and some of the issues. Mark Cuban himself, I'll let you hear this soundbite. He was saying, you know, it doesn't. Lots of people in the fans in the stands feel that the national anthem doesn't represent them. Take a listen.
Of who we are at the Dallas Mavericks. And in listening to the community, there were quite a few people that voiced their concerns, or really their fears that the national anthem and did not fully represent them, that their voices were not being heard. And so we've had a lot of conversations about whether or not we should play the anthem. And so during the first preseason game, we decided to not play it and just see what the response was. Knowing that we were going to have ongoing conversations about it. We didn't make any decision to never play the national anthem. That wasn't the case at all. We didn't cancel the national anthem. We still had our flag flying proud and up on the wall at the American Airlines Center, and everybody had the opportunity to address it and you know, pray to it or salute to it or whatever their feelings are. And we, you know,
You can just cut it off. Oh my gosh.
Okay, yeah. You're right.
I'm going to need my airsick bag here. I mean, what the anthem represents, what this flag represents, is all about our diversity and who we are as a country and what has made us great. Our country has evolved in a very positive way in terms of its inclusion, and it has always been a place that has welcomed people who are different. I mean, that's why we were formed. If anybody knows U.S. history, right? I mean, people who were disenfranchised, and you know, the old thing, the huddled masses, and you know that thing. But and what Cuban is doing is
like
that
Patton there with the flag, just like
he's changing the meaning of the anthem, and rather than cancel the anthem, he should be helping people to understand what the anthem really embraces and what we embrace as a country. I think he totally missed the opportunity there.
Okay, I want to get Michael's thought on this.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Garrick, and I think Mark Cuban has always kind of been a player community first kind of guy, kind of owner as it is, and
Mhm.
and that is really really good in some respects. Is he takes their opinions, and I know that they said the Mavericks lead the league in sellouts like almost every year because he gives away the tickets that aren't sold to like youth groups and like
Mhm.
areas in the community to allow underprivileged families and adults, kids that can't afford the tickets to go to the games for free. So I think that he does a lot of really really good for his community and gives back. But I think this just wasn't him, and I think that he got in his head a little bit that if I come out with something like this, that this will just kind of continue that mantra and that mo that I have of giving back and respecting other people's opinions. But
You know,
the
that's
reason
so
why.
that drives me nuts though. That's what we're doing all over the country. Our kindness turns to cruelty. Our inclusion turns to
Exclusion. Yeah.
exclusion, and we have just become stupid. The beauty of the national anthem is bitter rivals can come together for the national anthem. This doesn't represent us in the community. What country do you live in? That's the American flag. It should. And if you don't feel that it represents you, then you keep fighting for it to represent you. You keep fighting for what you believe in. That's what you have the right to do under the flag of the United States of America. But we've come into this place of cancel culture and weirdness, which, by the way, we're going to be talking a bit about this on tomorrow's program and the entertainment review and our weekend review with Gina Carano being discluded from Disney, but at the same time, James Gunn, who put out some pretty offensive tweets. We have become this cancel culture, this place where we've got to disclude and we're afraid of everything. Josh, come on.
Yeah, I'm especially upset about Gina Carano because she was excellent in Mandalorian, and honestly,
Yeah, I
didn't
didn't
see.
like her character at first, but boy, did it develop. It was outstanding.
Yeah, she did a really good job. I think that her character was awesome, and I wish we could see more of her in that role. I didn't really see her do anything wrong. I mean, looking at the what
And
she
her
had put
tweet,
out there, yeah, her tweets, it's like
her
I don't.
tweet, just so that you know what I could read the whole thing. I don't have it pulled up, but her tweet said, in essence, let me just tell you what it said, that in Nazi Germany, people were beaten in the streets, people were taken to internment camps. That didn't just happen overnight. It happened because neighbors were beating other people, that neighbors were turning other people in. How did that happen? It happened because we started demonizing, we started canceling culture, we started McCarthyisms, where we have a neighbor hating neighbor. And she asked the question, how is that different from cancel culturing people who think politically differently than you? That
Right.
was her question. And I think it was a good one.
And I don't see how that is like just how that warrants being fired. This is like, okay, we have created a culture today where we are so intolerant of other people's opinions that we're left just hating each other. And I see her point, and she's not calling anyone Nazis. She's not calling anyone. She's trying to engage in a conversation on this because people want to cancel her over her opinions, which frankly a lot of Americans hold and are not really that offensive if you really think about it. So
Brother E?
it's ridiculous to me.
Yes. Wow. So when it comes to the national anthem being played or not being played, my dad was a military serviceman for a long time, and he shared a very important statement. He said that he served this country so people have the right to do these things or not do these things.
Yeah.
I'm in the camp of, if Mark Cuban as a business owner chooses to not play the national anthem, I don't feel like to me that doesn't impact me in a negative way. That would somebody brought up, if you at your gym, do you play the national anthem every morning when you open up? And I go, no. I mean, my point is that what bugs me about this culture that we're in right now is that when somebody makes a decision to do something like this, they try to use it for a benefit to themselves. Like Mark Cuban, instead of just not doing it, he'll then send out an email to all the NBA owners and the press saying, by the way, we're taking a stand for social justice and we're not going to play the national anthem. I'm like, you just could have just not played it and nobody, I mean, like, so it's like, it starts to make me wonder, are you actually, like, what are your motives in doing this? That's the first
just grandstanding.
Like Pepsi
yeah.
or
Right.
Coca-Cola doing their commercials
Grandstanding.
about social justice. Like,
Right. And
they
so
don't
that's
really
like, so for me, like at this, when I saw like the NFL doing their whole, like their commercials during the Super Bowl for their social justice thing, I kind of just rolled my eyes at that too. Again, I go, once again, I mean, it's kind of like, do you guys remember when the NFL used to turn pink for breast cancer? Well, guess what? Breast cancer, they couldn't afford the promotions anymore. So players stopped wearing pink because now they would get fined if they do that. So it's like stuff
Money,
like that. That bugs me. That part bugs
Okay.
me. If
Gosh, that's great. You're
if a
right.
business does not want to play the national anthem at their business or their events, that doesn't offend me. That doesn't bug me. The grandstanding and the manipulation part, that bugs me. In terms of, I had talked to a bunch, and I know this is a small side note, and this is on the Gina, Carano part. I've talked to a lot of clients about that exact thing, and the reason why that bugged a lot of them was she was comparing how Republicans are being treated compared to how Jews were treated during the Holocaust. And for, people that's parents were thrown in, Auschwitz and stuff like that, none of that's happened. And so that's why they were upset by that.
But look at the other side. The other side is constantly calling anyone who's even remotely to the right of them politically Nazis. Like they throw out the Nazi comparison constantly. Like I see it.
I mean,
all
hasn't
the time.
Antifa become essentially like brown shirts? I think what I would say to your clients is, hey, I get you, except for, do you really think that just one day out of the blue, a bunch of Nazis got together over morning coffee and their lattes and croissants and said, you know what, let's just round up a bunch of Jews today? It didn't happen that way. It happened slowly by the changes in our society, by not being able to accept people for who they are, by not having tolerance for other people's mindsets. I think that is the point that she's trying to make. However, to your point, Brother E, we're seeing it portrayed in the media, her tweet as, she's comparing.
Well, and also in the culture, like you were talking about, is she could say, it's kind of like, you guys, we've all played telephone when we were a kid back, we all know what telephones are.
Mhm.
It's like you can, and this is why it's important to be careful what you say on social media or anything, because you could say one thing, like we can have a conversation like this, but if you say something on social media and then press tweet or Instagram or post, and you don't have a meaning behind it right away, somebody's going to twist that, and next thing you know, you could say, this is not right, and then like you talk to 6 different people, and by the time you get to the 6th person, they're saying she's saying this, and then you go back and reread the actual thing she said or somebody else said, and you're like, actually they didn't say that, they said this.
Well, hey,
that's how things.
Coach E and Michael, you guys are new to me, but one of the things that I really am always just trying to champion is equality and fairness, right? And the issue with what you're saying, Elston, and I agree with you, it's not applied equally, because if you are on one side of the political spectrum and you say something that could be misinterpreted, then it gets twisted, then that certainly will happen. But there's way more latitude given. There's way more grace. There's way more acceptance if you make a mistake, if you're on the other side politically. And so it's unfair, and it's really ridiculous. And I think people are fed up.
Yeah,
Michael?
Go ahead, Josh. It's like what I was saying though. It's like how often have we heard comparisons to Hitler and Trump or any like conservatives and Nazism? Like we hear it all the time. So you can't, like, if we're throwing that out all the time, and the mainstream media is like, well, we're getting these comparisons to Nazism from Gina, and we just don't think that we should use stuff like that. Like, what? How is that? How is that fair and equitable? Like you can't be throwing them out and then be mad when someone else does.
Well, and the irony in that, Josh, is that the exact opposite is true. I mean, the people on the left are behaving far more like Nazis than Trump was.
Well, that's where Antifa has kind of become like the brown shirts. And we really have to come to a place where we have tolerance for all and intolerance for bad behavior, where it goes all the way around. And then for some people, you kind of, you start feeling when they talk about social justice and such, you get a cringe. What do you mean by that? And does it disclude other people? And so sometimes you can really miss out on some pretty cool things that happen. Like at MLS, I'm just reading this, Toronto is launching a 30 million Change the Game campaign. And what they want to do is to create more equitable opportunities for young athletes to help them reach their potential. I love that. Those are good things that are happening for social justice. Those are good things that are happening that people are trying to do that bring equity. I'd like to focus on those. I know the things that we've been talking about for the last few minutes have been these hot button topics, and they're important, but maybe part of the solution is for us to focus on what really is making a difference. There are folks that don't have the ability to play the game. They don't have the money for the uniforms. They don't have the infrastructure in their schools. I like to see that. I mean, this is something good, and good for Toronto. Change the game. Thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's, I'm all for player and team activism for social justice issues. It's honestly just the way you go about it. And I think that's why the Walter Payton Man of the Year award that they give out in the NFL is like, I think it's like the highest honor, like almost even above a Super Bowl. Super Bowl is winning that award, because it shows excellence not only on the field but off the field as well, and what you do for your community, and what you do for the league, and representing what the league stands for. And I believe Russell Wilson was that.
Yes, he was.
I think the first since Jim Zorn for the Seahawks.
Yeah, and it's a very competitive award. You go up against the 32 finalists, one from each team, but not the whole league too. So to stand out like Russell Wilson did, hats off to him. But yeah, I think I love what Toronto did, and I actually read about that. And I think it's a great way to give back and create opportunities for underprivileged groups and communities.
Because going back to the NFL and many other, and basketball, NBA, that is an opportunity. It's one of the ways you can get out of poverty is playing sports. So give more opportunity for people, educational opportunity, sports opportunity. I am all about that. And as we talk about MLS, I'm getting kind of excited for a new season, but boy, they pushed it back a couple of months, Garrick. And funny thing is now we're able to watch Premier League. That's great. And Premier puts the Premier in Premier League. We've had here in the United States, MLS almost kind of feels like the little brother that doesn't play quite as well, but you let him on the field anyway. But then we see moments like our own Seattle Sounders, Jordan Morris, is playing for Swansea. By the way, he played this week like 70 minutes. That was outstanding. He started. Only thing though, did anyone notice that as soon as his sub came in, his sub scored? I was like, oh, ouch. Coachy Garrick.
He wore the defenders down. That's what he did.
He started opening the pickle jar.
Yeah,
that's right.
I always love seeing not just either MLS players or like originally like back in the day when an American player would go play in EPL or anywhere over there, and you get to watch them live. It always would blow me away how much faster and physical those guys are over there.
Oh, yeah.
But what was really cool is to see how well he fit. And that tells me it's like, man, it's like you'd watch him live here in the States. And you're like, this guy's pretty good. I wonder how he'd do over there. And then you see him, you're like, wow, I guess he fits. And you know what? Playing 70 minutes over there with that level of competition, I mean, hats off to him. I remember a couple years ago when he got injured and I was pretty upset by it in that exhibition game. But yeah, I mean, I remember like knowing that at that time saying, this kid's he's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of ability.
And he found his left foot. He found his left foot. Cause that was one of the big things that held him back was he didn't know he had 2 feet. Now he does. Well, he's got 2 feet and then some.
For those of us who are Seattle Sounders fans, it's been a wonderful blessing to see the evolution of Jordan Morris because, as you were pointing out, he always had the raw talent. He had the speed. He had decent finishing, but then to complete his game, and I think a lot of that has had to do with the talent that he has had around him and the types of players who have really encouraged him. And the ways that he's just been able to develop. Then he got the U.S. call up, and that just further kind of, I think, built his confidence. And he is a absolute clinical finisher now. And with the exception of Raul Ruidiaz, there's no one I'd rather see in front of the net with the ball than Jordan Morris.
All right, for the Seattle
as a Sounders fan.
As a Sounders fan, but as an MLS fan, and as we follow Major League Soccer, like here in Seattle, Michael, I'm sure soccer MLS predates most of our professional sports. We weren't a sports town. MLS came and then boom, Seahawks and stuff. We had a basketball team, but
you'll have one again soon. Don't worry.
Thank you for that. See, he's got our back. Michael's got our back. Thing is, it's been a development. It's been, watching MLS. I don't understand why it's so slow. It's just not on fire because there's more kids that play soccer than football. Maybe basketball, not so much. I don't know. But I'm just wondering what the future of MLS is, Brother E.
I was going to say, I mean, the biggest reason is in Europe, we got rugby and cricket over there. And in the US, you have major sports that pay a lot of money. So if you want to, I mean, imagine that you said in the United States, we're getting rid of baseball and we'll get rid of baseball and football. And then all they have to do is they can play basketball and soccer. Imagine the athletes that would be playing soccer.
Oh yeah. Like, you're right.
Imagine Wells Welker playing soccer, or Russell Wilson playing soccer, or, it's like, look at like some of these wide receivers. I mean, because when you see that the national levels, like when Germany is playing in the World Cup, they're all like 6'3", 6'4", and they move like Jordan Morris. It's like, what in the world are you guys eating over there? It's like they're, it's like, but their best athletes are playing those sports, where in the United States, the best athletes are going to play basketball, baseball, football, hockey. It's like, why would they play soccer? But now that's changing, especially at the youth level. You got a lot of young talent coming up, and I mean, we're still years away from catching up, but it's getting better. And even my friends over in Europe say they can sit down and watch an MLS game now, and it's not, like,
it's not as painful as it once was.
Do you think they'll feel the same about Major League Rugby? I mean, rugby, when is it starting? The end of March, or around in March, the 20th, and then it's going to run through April 1st. Yeah. Seattle Seawolves, by the way, for Major League Rugby, I broadcast from Seattle. We have some Seattle connections. Look at Brother E there with his Seahawks gear. the Seattle Seawolves. Oh yeah, the Seattle Seawolves have taken the shield their first inaugural years of Major League Rugby in the United States. But how does that compare, guys, to rugby, which is long standing, long played in other parts of the country, or in the world rather?
Yeah, I had the privilege of playing soccer and living in England for 6 years, or 4 years rather, and it, I think Major League Rugby in the U.S. is similar to Major League Soccer in that it
That's
is
what I'm
not.
saying.
Yeah, it's not the primary sport, and there's a lot of people who don't understand the game, and I think because, I mean, Major League
I got a
Rugby.
funny story about that, and then I want to hear from Michael and Josh. And Coach E, you play rugby, so well, he plays everything. But funny story, right? I am fairly, I gotta admit, fairly new to some of the things, the intricacies of rugby. I've watched, but I don't know it like I know soccer or football or some of the other sports. Right? Okay, American girl, it's my excuse. So I'm covering the Seawolves their first inaugural year, and I'm sitting on the sidelines, and I'm watching as a guy walks up behind the other guy and starts rubbing his hands up and down the outside of his thighs, and I'm like, um, kind of awkward here. And I was like, what the heck? What is this? Well, when they do a line in, you hoist a guy, he throws in the ball, but that's what they were doing. But see, that just shows that's just a moment. Oh yeah, okay. Not because I haven't seen it before in rugby, but because yeah, it's fairly new. I'm not necessarily used to that right in front of me. So kind of interesting.
Well, and
You guys,
American
your
football.
thoughts on what we're going to see from sports like rugby?
American football came from rugby, but it's just American football without all the stopping, because you have downs, and you have
Or the helmets,
kicking, and no helmets, and yeah, right,
and the pads.
right. But
it's a crazy, awesome, awesome
it's a
game.
fun, fast moving
Yeah.
sport, and
Michael?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the major rugby league, whatever it's referred to in the United States. But I think that you got to be one tough SOB to play the sport, and
Yes.
arguably out of all sports in the world, probably that's top 2 or 3. But I do know rugby internationally, and I know that the was it the haka? Is that the Hawaiian dance at
It's
the
New Zealand.
New Zealand? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've seen that a few times, and that's
Go All
pretty
Blacks.
cool. But kind of relating it to
You could not have a team called the All Blacks
yeah.
here, right? Or the All Whites.
Probably
or the
not.
you just couldn't. But yeah, you're right. The haka is amazing. It's a
Relating
Maori dance.
Yeah.
I can't do that 'cause I don't look fierce. But yeah, I dance hula. I dance Maori, but it's like no, I can't do it. At any rate, Josh, that's right. It is pretty fierce. And you and I've kind of joked about in soccer. That's another thing that kind of holds people back. It's the flailing and the, oh no, I hurt myself. Somebody call my mommy. That's really hard for Americans to watch. I know it's part of the theatrics of the game, but I've always said, man, if someone's flails and they sell, they weren't touched and what they need to do for punishment is to put them for 5 minutes in a hockey game or in a rugby game with guys who really bring people down to the pitch. I'm just saying, or to the ice. I mean, I can't even remember the game that I was watching this week where a fight broke out. And the refs are just there. Okay, let the boys fight it out. Yeah, and then take them to their separate areas. I think that's hard for people with Major League Soccer, but
Yeah.
maybe some of the appeal as we move forward out of the infancy of Major League Rugby. Coach
Yeah.
E? Josh?
Yeah, I was just gonna
Go
say, when it comes to soccer, the way to fix the flailing is either add an extra ref that's looking for that, or, I mean, penalize the people for, do more things like Major League Soccer started doing, yellow card people for flopping and things like that. It's just in the other sports like rugby and hockey, and I won't, football and basketball do it too, but in rugby and hockey, if you get checked or you get hit and it's a dirty hit, no one's there to be like, oh, that's a penalty. No, it's like the person knows what goes around comes around. And it happens pretty quick. Where in like football, you see these things now in American football where there's flopping, and in basketball, it's rewarded. And we've had whole discussions, Michelle, about flopping and how hard it makes it to watch sports. But if you keep on penalizing the floppers, eventually people stop doing it. So I hope that continues, and that's one of the nice things about rugby. Less flopping, more tackling.
Because I want to bring it back to our conversation about what's happening in America. I think America is just a bunch of floppers. Something happens, we fall on the pitch and say, oh, no, somebody pull a red card. I've been penalized against, Josh.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say earlier too, I think the two toughest sports, definitely rugby and hockey. I would argue hockey the number one, just because of the sheer speed that those guys can be checked into, like the guys on skates flying at them on ice. And
ice is harder than a pitch, and they have sticks. They have weapons.
Yeah. They have weapons, but they also wear gear. So rugby, it's comparable.
I'm going to have Elston in a second. I'm going to have you weigh in on that, Elston, because you
which hit is harder?
Everything. I want to see, which one did you get your butt kicked worse in?
Which one did the Bash Bros come after you with?
I honestly think so. I haven't played ice hockey. I played field hockey, and I got in like 3 or 4 different fights. Like I was like, wow, this is really physical, and it gets really chippy. Rugby's one of the things about rugby is it's like they were saying, it's continuous motion. So you're constantly on offense, you're on defense, you're passing, it's like, so you don't have a lot of time to really get that angry and upset with all the stopping and starting. One sport that I will throw out there though, that I've coached many clients on, that I haven't physically played, but I've watched, that is extremely physical, and it's a very female dominated sport, and that is bank track roller
derby.
And I've seen old school NFL clotheslines, elbows, missing teeth, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I was gonna guess women's basketball.
They have enforcers there. They have like, these gals that are like speedsters, and then they have some that their job is to just knock people out. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is woo. All right. I mean, so I would put that up there on my list of top physical.
Yeah, you guys couldn't handle it. I'm just saying, you can't handle it.
Probably not.
Michelle, where I thought you were going, actually, when you said just give them 5 minutes in the ring, in whatever. But what I thought you were going to say is just if people flop. I mean, we have replay officials now, and they're continually watching and reviewing things. And if someone flops, they could get a message to the center official and say 5-minute penalty for flopping.
Yeah, that would be great.
And they actually pull them out of the game for 5 minutes. And that would shut it down real quick.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean, if it was a defender, it could really compromise your team. If it was a forward,
I think that's a realistic thing. Although I do like my idea better. Just you really want to know what it feels like to get a real hit. That's what I'm saying, guys. It's time for our final shot. That's supposed to be a soundbite. Final shot, final shot, final shot. Okay. I'm just living the soundbite there. Okay. Awkward. So where we go around the round table and you just give a shout out to something, an idea, whatever it may be, player. We're going to start with Joshua McMillen.
Yeah, I'll put my shout out to JJ Watt. He got released by the Texans after 10 years there. And I'm just going to say, if you want to come play for another team, there's a couple guys that have come up to the Northwest and really liked it up here. So if you want to want to come play with us, I'll buy you dinner. I'll buy you dinner, JJ Watt.
If he came to Seattle, I bet he could afford to buy you dinner.
Official invitation. All right. I
go.
like it. Michael.
I'll use my final shot for Andrew Benintendi, who was a crucial and beloved member of the Red Sox for 4 seasons, I believe. World Series champ in 2018, made probably the best catch I've ever seen live on TV, saving a game against Houston. So I think he got a little bit of an unfair shake and wasn't really given a chance. I think his leash was a little short, but good luck to him and his new role in Kansas City. And I'm excited to see him become the all-star we all know he can be.
I like it. All right, Garrick.
Well, I got to give it to our author in residence today. Brent R. Baker is not with us because it's his book launch, and he's doing a book signing today over in Eastern Washington. And
I think I have it here somewhere.
Oh yeah. So his book, Breaking Yesterday, is that what it's called? That's terrible that. But Breaking Yesterday, BrentRBaker.com. You can go order his book. You can get it on Amazon. And it's soon going to be available on Audible, because we know somebody who is actually doing the audio for it.
That's me. I'm actually reading the audio.
Ms. Wonderful, Michelle Mason. So my final shot. Congratulations, Brent, on the launching of your book. May you have much success.
See you next week.
And we'll look forward to that becoming a major motion picture one of these days too.
That's right. I hope so.
Starring Kirk Cameron.
Coach E.
Okay, so I don't know if we covered this, but I wanted to, I know this happened like last week. This is a 2-parter. One is to the Seattle Storm's Sue Bird for re-signing for this coming year. She's had one amazing career, and she continues to do really, really good things in the community and play really, really well. And I'm really excited about that. The other thing is, it's slightly controversial, but I'm really proud of the Seahawks quarterback, Russell Wilson, this week, because I have actually criticized Russell Wilson before for always being, quote unquote, the company guy, very robotic, saying the same things over and over and over again. And this week, he said what was on his mind. And, people can give him a hard time for it or not, but I'm actually glad that he finally just said what was bugging him and what was on, right or wrong. It's good that he can show that he's a human being and he can make human choices. So that's all I wanted to say.
I like it. And
it was funny because he tried not to answer, and then Dan Patrick was like, no. You answer this question. You tell me. But I agree.
He didn't let him off.
And Coachy, you were also talking about Sue Bird and the Storm. Maybe next week we can take it on. They're making some interesting changes, getting rid of some wonderful veterans for first and second year players. I'm wondering, do they know what they're doing? What's going on? What's up with that? Right?
Lots of trades.
Yeah. So maybe we can take that on next week. My final shot goes out to Rich Hallstrom and his family. He mentioned his father-in-law. His father-in-law passed away this last week. And it just gives me the opportunity to say what a great guy Rich Hallstrom is. He's the author of Thunder Sports Network and a regular here on Sports Time Out by MyMichelleLive. Rich you don't know it, you don't see it. He's in a wheelchair. He can kind of get around with a walker. He uses a wheelchair, and that he's never let that stop him. That man is indomitable. He has a spirit that is unquittable. He is there for his friends, and so I'm just asking that if any of you are praying people, just say some prayers for his family. It is hard to lose people, but he knows where he's going, and that's what leads us to the God story. There's an it factor that gets you through the game of life, whatever teams and whatever foes you're facing. There's something that gets you through the game of life, and that is the God story that we get to. My faith is in Jesus Christ, and that propels me to absolute joy, even in the midst of craziness. Even starting this podcast, which is maybe less than 3 months old, it's been wrought with some controversy from my last employer and issues. It doesn't matter. God's got me. And that's what gets us through when you're playing your game in life. What do you have that gets you through? What do you have that win or lose, you're coming out in the end with a win-win? That's the God story we try to get to. And hey, guys, thanks for sharing it with us today. It has been such a blast. Michael Joseph Corbet he's now kind of a regular. So you join us anytime you want, Michael. It's nice to have you as part of the family. Coachy, Joshua McMillen. We got Pang from Garrick. It's just all good, guys. Happy Blue Friday.
Happy Blue Friday.
For more fun, go to MyMichelleLive.com.
And shout out to Rich for being willing to step in if needed as the running back for the Seahawks.